He left me with $24,000 in debt and a note that said you'll manage, but my 13-year-old son had other plans and I was standing in the kitchen stirring a pan of boxed mac and cheese when my phone buzzed against the counter. I didn't check it right away. It had been a long Monday at the clinic, and I was too tired to care. But the sound came again, louder this time, or maybe it just felt louder in the silence. Something in my gut told me to look. It was an email from Jordan. Subject line, "I'm sorry." I tapped it open with a cold finger, and by the second line, my heart was in freefall. "Maggie, I know this is sudden, but I've left. I've met someone else. She's younger, and she makes me feel alive again. I'm sorry, but I need to do this for me. Also, the business loan is in your name, so please take care of it. I'm sure you'll manage. I won't be reachable for a while." That was it. No goodbye, no mention of our 13-year-old son, no hint of guilt. Just a digital note like he was canceling a subscription. I reread it 3 times, the words blurring as the blood drained from my face. My knees buckled, and I gripped the counter like it might anchor me to reality. This couldn't be real. But it was. My name is Maggie. I'm 41. And this is how my husband of 16 years vanished with a woman named Nina and left me with a $24,000 loan in my name. I don't remember sitting down, but I was on the floor when the timer went off on the stove. The cheese sauce bubbled over, burning at the edges, but I couldn't move. Eventually, I dragged myself to the table and set 2 plates. Just like every other night. Eli, my son, wandered in wearing his favorite flannel and a concerned frown. "Is something wrong?" he asked, eyeing my untouched food. "You look off." I forced a tight smile. "Just tired, sweetheart." He tilted his head like he was searching my face for more. He'd always been perceptive, too much so for his age. "It's about Dad, isn't it?" he asked quietly. "He hasn't been around much lately." I nodded. "He went away for a while." There was a long silence. Eli stared at his plate. Then, softly, "Is it that woman?" I froze. "What woman?" "I saw a message once," he said, barely above a whisper. "On his phone. A few weeks ago. It started with an N, I think." There was a heart emoji. My chest tightened like a vice. "Eli, why didn't you tell me?" He shrugged, eyes still down. "I thought it was a dumb thing. Maybe a mistake. I didn't want to make things worse." I reached across the table and took his hand. "That's not your job, baby." "I just hate him," Eli said suddenly, his voice shaking. "He left you. And me. What kind of dad does that?" I didn't have an answer. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Jordan hadn't just left. He'd abandoned us and saddled me with debt I couldn't pay. We had taken out the loan 2 years earlier, back when Jordan had convinced me to fund his renovation and remodel business idea. His credit was garbage. Mine wasn't. So I'd signed. "It's for our future," he'd said. He had drained the joint account before leaving. I checked. Only $63 remained. Rent was due in 2 weeks. The school needed money for Eli's fall field trip. Groceries were thinning. The bills didn't care that my life was imploding. I tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. I messaged him. Nothing. I even called his brother in Rochester, who just muttered. He said something about heading south for a while. Didn't say where. By day 5, I was surviving on caffeine and anxiety. Then, one night, I walked past Eli's room and saw him hunched over his desk, typing quickly on my old laptop. "What are you working on?" I asked. He looked up, startled but not ashamed. "Just something." I raised a brow. "Something like." He paused, then grinned, a little too confidently for a 13-year-old. "I'm fixing it." "Fixing what, Eli?" "You'll see," he said. That night I didn't press him. I figured maybe it was a school project. Maybe some online game. But I should have known. Eli didn't do maybe. He was planning something. And it would become the spark that turned our quiet grief into a storm. The next morning felt heavier. I moved through the house like a sleepwalker, pouring coffee I didn't drink, folding clothes I didn't remember washing. Eli left for school without asking questions, but I saw something new in his eyes, determination. By Friday, I was behind on everything. Payments, work, even remembering what day it was. My phone buzzed constantly with loan alerts and final warnings. I opened one from First Union Credit with shaking hands. Remaining balance, $23,412.17. Final notice, legal action may be initiated. That night, I reheated leftover soup and barely touched it. Eli did his best to make conversation, but I wasn't really there. My thoughts were wrapped around bills and numbers and the growing fear that maybe I was going to lose everything. Then, just before bed, Eli came into the living room holding my laptop. "I need to show you something," he said, voice steady. I sat up straighter. He opened the screen and turned it toward me. It was my email, only I hadn't written the messages there. He had. "What is this?" I asked. "I used your email to message Dad," he said quickly. "I pretended to be you. I thought maybe it would scare him into doing the right thing." My stomach dropped. "You did what?" I told him the loan company had called. I said they were opening an investigation, that they might press charges. I made it sound serious. He scrolled to the reply. There it was, Jordan's name. His words jumped out like bullets. "Don't threaten me. You signed for that loan. Don't pin your failures on me. You'll regret this." I stared at it in disbelief. He actually replied? "Wait," Eli said, pulling up a second message. Then she wrote me. Nina. A knot formed in my throat. I hadn't even seen her face, and already I hated her. He opened the email. "Maggie, you're embarrassing yourself. Jordan's moved on. Maybe you should too. Bitterness doesn't look good on you. Try therapy." I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, my chest, my fists. "Eli, she really said this to you?" He nodded. I replied again, he said. "I told her I was a friend of yours, and that things were serious. That the bank was looking into everything. I thought if I pushed harder, he might panic." He hesitated. That's when everything went wrong. My stomach flipped. "What happened?" "He called," Eli whispered. "Not messaged. He called the house phone." I froze. "He asked for you." But I didn't say anything. I guess he recognized the silence. He laughed. "Said Maggie?" Then he said, "No, that's not you. You're too quiet. Must be the kid." Then he got cold. Eli's voice dropped. He said, "You've got guts, kid. But you're messing with something you don't understand. Don't get smart. Don't make things worse." Then he hung up. I stared at him, stunned. "You shouldn't have had to deal with that. You're 13. "I just wanted to help," he said, eyes glassy. "You looked so tired. I didn't want to watch you fall apart." I pulled him into a hug, holding him so tightly it hurt. "You're not supposed to carry this. That's my job. But I can help," he insisted. "We can do this together." I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him to be a kid. But part of me knew we were already past that point. Later that night, I sat at the table with a stack of envelopes and my laptop. I dug deeper, trying to make sense of what Jordan had done. When I checked my credit history, I found recent activity tied to a card I didn't recognize, used at a beachside inn in a town called Gulf Harbor, 3 hours south. The name punched me in the gut. Gulf Harbor Inn, $178.54, booked with a card I hadn't used in months. Then Eli walked in with a notepad. "I have something else," he said. He pulled up the GPS app. Jordan's phone, somehow still linked to our family account, pinged from a stretch of the coast just outside town. He tapped the map. He's still there. With her. I leaned over, staring at the blinking dot on the screen. "Eli, how did you even think to do this?" I just remembered we still had the locator app from when he used to lose his phone every week. My breath caught. My son, barely a teenager, was running point on a digital investigation. "Let's go there," he said suddenly. I blinked. "Go where?" "To Gulf Harbor. We find him. We get proof. If he's spending your money on his new life, we document everything. Photos, receipts, dates. If we show the bank or a lawyer he misused the loan, maybe we can transfer the debt or build a fraud case." It was insane. It was desperate. It was brilliant. "You think we can really prove that?" I asked. "I think we can try." I stared at the blinking GPS dot. I thought about the emails, the way Jordan had laughed when he realized it was Eli on the line. I thought about Nina and her smug message. And mostly, I thought about my son, this sharp, determined kid who'd refused to sit back while the world burned around him. I took a deep breath. "Okay," I said. "We go tomorrow." Eli's eyes lit up, but I held up a finger. "No more pretending to be me. No more messages or lies. From now on, We do everything together. Truth only. He nodded. Deal. We packed light. One bag each. Clothes, my laptop, the loan documents, charger cords, a digital camera. Eli slipped a small notebook into his hoodie pocket. What's that for? I asked. Evidence, he said. Gotta stay organized. It was surreal, prepping for a confrontation like it was some kind of stakeout. But this wasn't about catching someone in the act. This was about taking back control. The next morning, just as the sun was rising over the trees, we pulled onto the highway headed south. I watched the road, hands tight on the wheel. Eli sat beside me, scribbling notes, brows furrowed like a young detective. This wasn't just about the loan anymore. Not about the money. It was about what it meant. The story we were telling ourselves. The lesson I was teaching my son. That when someone tries to tear your world apart, you don't just survive. You rebuild. And sometimes you fight. We reached Gulf Harbor just after noon. The town looked like something off a postcard. Striped awnings, taffy shops, wind chimes swinging in the breeze. Couples strolled with cones of melting ice cream, laughter drifting in from the boardwalk. But I wasn't here for the charm. I was here for a man who disappeared like a coward and left me holding the wreckage. Eli tapped the GPS. He's here, he said. Still hasn't moved from this in almost an hour. I parked across from a small beachside inn called Driftwood Hollow. Quaint, painted coral and white. A sign by the door read vacancy. Jordan always did love comfort that looked effortless. We stayed in the car, watching. 20 minutes later, the door opened. There he was. He looked better than he had any right to. Tan, sunglasses, laughing. Beside him was a woman in a sundress, long dark hair, younger than me by a decade easy. Nina. They walked arm in arm down the street like they hadn't burned 2 lives behind them. I felt my throat close. They look happy, I muttered. Eli didn't speak, but I saw his jaw tighten. His fingers gripped the notebook in his lap. I raised my phone and snapped a photo through the windshield. Nina leaned into Jordan, laughing at something he said, holding a to-go iced coffee. I zoomed in. The logo on the bag in Jordan's hand. Cambridge Clothing, a boutique I knew from their old credit history. Expensive, the kind of place Jordan mocked when he was still pretending we couldn't afford groceries. I snapped another photo. That's your money, Eli said quietly. Ours. I know. We followed from a distance, blending into the crowds. They wandered the boardwalk, stopped into a cafe, came back out 15 minutes later. Jordan paid with a card. His receipt fluttered in the breeze before Nina grabbed it from him. Eli jotted the time, store name, and description in his notepad. I wanted to cry watching him, so serious, so calm. We walked back to the car. I didn't know what our next move would be. Then Jordan looked up. He saw me. Our eyes locked across the street. His smile dropped instantly. He whispered something to Nina, then started walking, fast, straight toward us. My heart kicked into panic. I climbed out of the car, shutting the door behind me just as he reached the curb. What the hell are you doing here? He said, voice low and sharp. Talking, I said. This isn't the time or place, Maggie. Then make time. I'm with someone, he snapped. Oh, I know, I said louder. The same someone you left me for after draining our bank account and dumping a loan on me. His face twisted. Keep your voice down. No. A few heads turned on the sidewalk. Jordan stepped closer. What do you want? He hissed. I pulled a folded paper from my purse and handed it to him. It was a copy of the final warning letter from the loan office. You remember this? Because it's in my name. You left me holding this mess. He barely looked at it. You signed for it. You said it was for our business. You lied. Prove it. I intend to. His eyes flicked to the car. Eli was still inside, watching everything. Jordan took a half step forward, trying to tower over me. You don't want to make this worse. Already done, I snapped. You think walking around here on my dime, smiling like you're free, makes you untouchable? I have receipts. I have dates. I have you using my credit to fund your beach fling. And guess what? So does my lawyer. Before he could answer, Nina walked out of the cafe. She stopped cold when she saw us. You must be the wife, she said, voice dripping with disdain. I turned to her. And you must be the reason my son had to grow up too fast. She rolled her eyes. Oh, please. Jordan told me everything. You two were miserable. You were just holding him back. I didn't rise to it. I pulled out my phone again and tapped the screen. Did he also tell you this entire trip is on a card tied to my name? Because I just checked last night. I paid for your fancy little bed and breakfast. I hope your cappuccino tastes like guilt. Nina's expression faltered. She looked at Jordan. Is she serious? He tried to brush it off. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, I said. Nina stepped back. You told me the loan was under your business. Jordan's mouth opened, then closed. He looked between us, unsure who to lie to first. I took a step forward. This isn't about jealousy or drama. This is about consequences. You're both adults. You made your choices. Now you live with them. He leaned in close. You wouldn't go to the cops. You clearly don't know me anymore. Behind me, Eli opened the car door and stepped out. He walked up beside me, holding a small folder we'd packed that morning. I printed everything, he said calmly. Transaction records, booking confirmations, card activity. We can bring it to a lawyer or the police. Nina stared at him. Wait, how old is he? Eli met her gaze dead on. Old enough to know what stealing looks like. Silence. Even the breeze felt like it stopped. I flipped open the folder, pulled out one last paper. A draft of a demand letter my lawyer helped me write. This is your chance, I said to Jordan. You wire the money back, every cent. You give up the camper. You cooperate. And maybe, I won't report this as identity fraud. Jordan's face paled. Don't test me, I added. We're done playing nice. I didn't wait for a response. I turned back toward the car. Eli followed. Jordan didn't stop us. We didn't look back. On the drive home, neither of us said much. The sun was setting behind the trees, throwing long shadows across the highway. I kept thinking about the look on Jordan's face, caught, exposed, powerless. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like the tide had turned. Eli stared out the window, his face unreadable. He didn't smile. But when we pulled into our driveway and the porch light flicked on, he finally looked over and said one word. Good. I nodded. Because he was right. The house was quiet when we got back. Eli went straight to his room, and I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at nothing. My hands were still clenched from the drive. My body was home, but my mind was still on that boardwalk, hearing Jordan's voice, watching the color drain from his face as the truth caught up with him. I wanted to believe we were done, that now, finally, things would shift in our favor. But deep down, I knew Jordan wasn't the kind of man who went down quietly. 2 days passed. No calls. No money. Every morning, I checked the account. Nothing. On the third day, just as I was about to print the paperwork for the police, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello. Maggie, it's me. Please don't hang up. Jordan's voice. Rapid, frantic, like he was out of breath. I need your help. I said nothing. He went on. Someone came to the inn this morning. A guy in a blazer. Said he was from the loan company or the bank, I don't know. He started asking questions about the camper, the credit lines. He had photos, documents. Said there were irregularities. My heart slammed in my chest. What did you tell him? I asked. I panicked, he admitted. Said I didn't know anything. But I think he knew I was lying. I closed my eyes. So let me get this straight, I said calmly. You ran off with another woman, emptied our savings, used my name to finance your beach getaway. And now that people are asking questions, you want help. You don't get it, he hissed. They said if this gets labeled as fraud, I could go to jail. I almost laughed. The absurdity of it. You already lost your family, your kid, and your dignity, Jordan. What else is there left to take? His voice cracked. Nina left. She packed up and disappeared yesterday. Took the car. The last of the cash. She said I was a sinking ship. Of course she did. He was quiet for a moment. I'm stuck here. I felt a flicker of something. Not pity, but recognition. He was unraveling. But that didn't mean I owed him anything. You want to make this right? I said. Then take responsibility. Sign the documents. Pay back what you owe. Cooperate with the bank. Maybe, I don't press charges. He hesitated. You'd really do that to me? I'm not doing anything to you, Jordan. You did this all on your own. He didn't answer. And if I don't see something change soon, I added, I'm walking into that police station with everything we have: documents, receipts, GPS logs. You'll be lucky if fraud's the only thing they charge you with." He whispered, "I'm sorry." It was the first time he'd said it. But it came too late, too easy, too much like a man trying to avoid a consequence. I hung up. No tears. No shaking. Just silence. Eli walked into the room. "Was that him?" I nodded. "Is he scared?" "Yeah." Eli tilted his head. "Good." That night, I got an email from Jordan. Subject line, agreed. He'd signed the payment agreement. $550 per month until the full balance was paid. He offered to hand over the camper van. In a closing paragraph, he asked if I could wait a few weeks before going to the authorities, just until he got back on his feet. I didn't answer. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. The next day, we began the process of shifting debt liability onto him legally. My lawyer was blunt but hopeful. With the receipts, GPS records, and evidence of financial coercion, he said, "We've got a case. But it's not over yet." I knew that. I just didn't know how much worse it could get. A few days later, Eli walked in from school holding a letter. "This came today," he said. "You should look at it." I opened the envelope and froze. It was a second loan account, opened 5 months ago, in my name. Balance, $18,700. I'd never seen it before, never approved it, never even received a call about it. My hands started to shake. "He did it again," I whispered. Eli sat down beside me, jaw clenched. "After everything?" I nodded. "After he said sorry?" "He never meant it." I pulled up my credit file. The loan had been active for 154 days. Opened online. Verified by my social security number, date of birth, and digital signature. He knew all of it. All the answers to every security question. All the details to get approved. I had been so busy fighting the first fire, I never saw the second one burning behind me. "This isn't just family drama anymore," Eli said. "This is a crime." I didn't even argue. The next morning, I went to the police. I brought everything: emails, credit reports, screenshots, bank activity, the GPS logs, the new loan notice, and the threats he sent Eli that night he called. I didn't cry. I didn't downplay it. I told the truth. The officer who took my statement read everything in silence. Then she looked up and said the words I hadn't realized I needed to hear. "This looks like a clear case of identity theft and financial fraud. We'll open a formal investigation." I walked out of the station lighter. Not because it was over, but because finally, someone believed me. 3 weeks later, my phone rang again. This time, it was a detective. They'd arrested Jordan. He had been caught trying to withdraw funds tied to the second fraudulent loan at a gas station ATM 30 miles outside Gulf Harbor. The bank had flagged the activity. They brought him in. He confessed. He admitted to forging my name, opening accounts, bypassing security, even maxing out a credit card tied to my name on hotel charges and electronics. He wasn't clever. He was just desperate. And now he was exposed. The charges? Fraud, identity theft, financial abuse. Eli and I were home when the call came. I hung up and turned to him. "Will he go to jail?" he asked. The answer wasn't certain, but the detective had said, "With this much evidence, it's likely." Eli didn't cheer. He didn't grin. He just nodded. "Good." A month later, I stood in a courtroom, staring at the man who had once shared my bed, my future, my name. Jordan looked smaller. Not physically, but shrunk. Like the confidence had been hollow all along, and someone had finally popped it. The judge reviewed the charges, then the files. Jordan was ordered to pay full restitution for both loans, plus the credit card debt. His wages would be garnished. A percentage allocated each month for child support. His sentence, 60 days in county jail, 18 months probation. Not long enough to vanish, but long enough for a lesson. When it ended, I didn't speak to him, didn't look back. I just walked out with my son. We weren't done healing. Not yet. But something had shifted. The first loan was dissolved under the fraud ruling. The second was closed by the lender after reviewing the investigation. My credit, once shot to pieces, began to recover. I was promoted at work. Eli and I moved into a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. And it was quiet. Eli started a blog. Justice Stories, he called it. He wrote about what we'd been through, how it felt to take power back. His teacher said he was different now, more confident, more focused. I wasn't surprised. He had faced more at 13 than some people do in a lifetime. One night, over dinner, he looked up from his plate. "Mom, are you happy?" I thought for a second. Then I smiled. "I'm getting there." Winter came early that year. Snow dusted the sidewalk outside our new apartment, frosting the windows and muffling the sounds of the world. Inside, things were calm, finally. The kind of calm that comes after a storm so long and loud you almost forgot silence existed. Jordan was serving his sentence. His letters came at first, 2, maybe 3, scattered, messy, full of half apologies and subtle blame. I didn't write back. Neither did Eli. We'd said everything that needed saying in that courtroom. Life moved forward. I switched departments at work. Higher pay, more flexible hours. I started cooking again. Real meals, not just reheated soup. Eli started helping in the kitchen. It became our ritual. Tuesday taco night, Friday spaghetti, Sunday pancakes. It was quiet joy, something I hadn't felt in years. One afternoon, while I was sorting mail, Eli burst in from school holding his phone. "You're not gonna believe this," he said. I braced myself. "What now?" He handed it to me. A social media post, an engagement announcement. Nina, dressed in white beside a man I didn't recognize. She was smiling wide, captioned with, "Found my forever. No more broken men. Hashtag new chapter." I blinked. She got engaged? Eli nodded. 3 months after leaving Dad. Wow. She really moved on like she changed outfits. We didn't laugh, but something about it made the weight in my chest shift. It wasn't anger, not even bitterness, just disbelief. She'd wrecked our lives, then waltzed away into a new one like she'd never been part of the fire. She must have been talking to him while she was still with Dad, Eli added. Probably. He paused. That bother you? I looked at the screen again, then handed the phone back. Not anymore. A few weeks later, I got a call from my attorney. The final paperwork had gone through. Both fraudulent loans closed, credit restoration in process, official fraud rulings stamped and filed. You're in the clear, she said. Completely. I sat down on the kitchen floor and just breathed. It was over. Really, finally over. I bought a cake that night. Nothing fancy, just chocolate with white icing and a little plastic sign that read "Freedom feels good." Eli laughed so hard, he nearly dropped the knife trying to cut it. This is like our Independence Day, he said through a mouthful. Later, I found him at his desk, typing up a new blog post. He titled it, What Strength Really Looks Like. I didn't read over his shoulder. I didn't need to. He'd lived it. Then, 2 months after the final court date, a plain envelope arrived. No return address. Just my name, written in handwriting I hadn't seen in a long time. Inside was a check, $500, and a note. This is all I can send right now. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm trying. It wasn't signed, but I knew it was from Jordan. I put the check in a drawer and left it there. That night, while washing dishes, Eli asked, Would you ever forgive him? I thought for a while before answering. Forgiveness isn't always about the person who hurt you, I said. Sometimes it's about letting go, not forgetting, just choosing not to carry it every day. He nodded, like he understood. And I think he did. Spring bloomed fast. The chill in the air faded. Eli got accepted into a leadership program at school. His blog started gaining traction. A local paper reached out and asked if they could feature one of his posts. He printed the article and taped it to the fridge. Above it, he scrawled in marker, Truth is power. Then, one weekend in April, a new letter came. From Jordan. This time, it wasn't handwritten. It was typed. Clean. Formal. Addressed to both of us. He apologized again. Said he understood if we never wanted contact. He had entered a rehab program through a correctional initiative. Was trying to get certified as a tradesman. Said he wanted to be better. Not for us. For himself. And if Eli ever wanted to write back, he'd understand either way. I didn't know what to do with that one. I handed it to Eli without saying a word. He read it. Quietly. Then folded it again and said, I hope he means it. I nodded. Me too. But we didn't write back. We didn't need to. The last shift came quietly, months later. Eli had just turned 14. We threw a party. Pizza, soda, cheap streamers, too many balloons. He invited friends from school, from his blog, even his English teacher who'd helped him get published in the school paper. He looked happy, like a real kid, the way he should have always been. That night, after everyone left, we sat in the living room surrounded by gift wrap and cake crumbs. "I think I finally get it," he said. "Get what? Why you didn't lose it? Why you didn't burn everything down?" I raised a brow. "You stayed steady," he continued. "Even when everything got ugly. You got mad. Yeah, but you didn't let it make you cruel." I smiled. "You taught me that. You made me see that being strong doesn't always mean being loud. Sometimes it means holding the line." My eyes burned. I didn't say anything. He leaned back on the couch and let out a sigh. "I'm glad we're out of that storm." "Me too," I said. Silence stretched between us, not empty, but full. Then he added, "You know, I thought Dad was the one who was going to teach me how to be a man." I looked at him. He looked back. "But I learned from you." I didn't cry. Not then. But later, when he was asleep, I sat in the quiet and let the tears fall. Not from pain. Not from grief. From pride. From relief. From peace. Jordan had tried to break us. Had stolen more than money. Time. Trust. Safety. He'd tried to rewrite our story. But he didn't get to write the ending. We did.